Everybody's had their say about Ronna McDaniel, except me. I'm Michael Smerconish in Philadelphia, and now it's my turn. When MSNBC didn't take Donald Trump's victory speech the night that he won the Iowa caucus, I said on radio that it was a mistake and that it set a bad precedent. If you're a media outlet, you can't talk about the 2024 election a year in advance, hype the Iowa caucus, interrupt programming for the night, engage a panel, show the votes coming in on a big map, and then not give the victor his just due. It's like carrying the Super Bowl and then deciding to dip out of the presentation of the Lombardi Trophy because you don't like who won the game. And carried to its logical conclusion, I said, this censorship would mean not taking his acceptance speech at the Republican National Convention or his inaugural address should he win the election. Ironically, it's now the RNC saying they might limit NBC's access to cover their convention, even though it's doubtful it could exercise that control. And now Trump is getting the political benefit of the brouhaha, notwithstanding that he instigated McDaniel's firing from the RNC. The hard question remains how to cover Donald Trump and his supporters. Ignoring or disrespecting the presumptive GOP candidate and his base, I think, is a mistake. It won't diminish their cause nor make them go away. The grievances that gave rise to Trump's election in 2016 will still be with us when he's gone. Global migratory shifts, immigration battles, changing demographics, and the corresponding belief of some that they've been forgotten amidst all this change will outlive Trump's political career. Remember, Brexit preceded his election. Better to engage the beliefs of the 45% or so who stand ready to vote for Trump again. They deserve a seat at the table. Of course, no one's views should be aired without challenge. That's a journalist's responsibility. And I said much the same a year ago when many objected to CNN hosting Trump for a town hall. How could every other candidate but the leader be offered a town hall, I asked. And Caitlin Collins did a terrific job in peppering the former president with questions. Giving this constituency the cold shoulder only strengthens them. It emboldens claims of bias and gives other networks something that they can run on a loop. It reminds me of the fallout after the New York Times published a controversial essay by Republican Senator Tom Cotton in the aftermath of the George Floyd riots. 2 days later, the paper said that it should never have been published. Editor James Bennett lost his job as a result. I don't agree with Cotton, but I defended his right to be heard. Same with Ronna McDaniel, who wasn't just any Republican. She was the head of the RNC. I'm not advocating for her personally. I'm advocating for balance. And I'd be a hypocrite if I didn't say so today. After all, I'm the guy who time and again has responded to your social media complaints in real time after any number of guests that I've hosted that some of you don't like. You remember Matt Gaetz, the very week that he played a pivotal role fighting the election of House Speaker Kevin McCarthy? Or RFK Jr., Vivek Ramaswamy, and Dean Phillips right after each announced their candidacies? John Eastman, the former Trump lawyer now facing disbarment, has been my guest here discussing his role in the January 6th rally. Doctors Scott Atlas and Jay Bhattacharya from Stanford both spoke to me here about herd immunity in the context of COVID. Even January 6th's QAnon shaman, after he got out of jail and announced he was running for Congress. I could continue. Sean Spicer, Kellyanne Conway, Carrie Lake, Roger Waters, they've all been my guest. Congressman,
to drain the swamp in the Ukraine.
I've read all the texts. The texts make it very clear that we weren't even going to give the guy a meeting unless he was first prepared to investigate the Bidens.
The ability to do something about it. Well, that was the issue.
That didn't happen. Why not take the win? Because if you don't, it looks like Trump is now acting like Nixon or John Connally on Reagan's behalf to just try and save the win for himself. Well, why don't you say that? And why didn't Trump say that in a statement
Michael,
last night? That's what I haven't heard.
Stop.
It sounds like you're not even taking ownership that you never should have walked through that door. You know, there were so many others that I invited who you probably wouldn't have liked, but many don't accept the invitation. And you know why they turn me down? In part because they do a calculus as to how many primary voters will be watching a particular network. And if they're a Republican, they think their time is better spent on Fox. And it's a vicious cycle. If more would accept an invitation like mine, then their base audience might feel more welcome in tuning in. I've said since my first show here on CNN 10 years ago, this tribalism among elected officials and polarization in the media, it's killed civility and made compromise the new C word. And you know what else? It's boring. Why would anybody want to watch a discussion of the news that only reinforces their beliefs and doesn't challenge people to think? Instead, invite all sides, confront the falsehoods from the right and the left, and if something slips by and we've got to do a fact check later, then so be it. But get over the idea that the risk of metastasis from one falsehood getting through warrants total censorship. There are responsible people at both ends of the political spectrum. You just have to find them.